Well, hello there. This is my channel. My name is Karen Campbell, and I'm an author of a lot of art instructional books, and I'm super excited because my newest book, Learn to Draw Art Deco Style, is now on Amazon, and I am super fired up about it. So this is the first lesson you're taking with me. Welcome to my channel. I want to color in today this girl. She's directly out of the book, and we are going to be coloring her in with Copic markers, and you can actually use any alcohol-based marker for this project. They come in a ton of different price points and brands, and you're welcome to use whichever brand suits your fancy. I am absolutely in love with Copics, so I've been collecting them very, very slowly over the years. The key to making this drawing, which you will be learning how to draw step by step in the book, using my quadrant method, and I do have a video on that here on YouTube as well. But the key to making this look three-dimensional is doing the coloring part in steps, very clear, straightforward layers. So the first layer we are going to be doing with all of our lightest shades. So what I want you to do, if you want to do it like we're doing it in the book, is pick out three light colors. So we're going to have a light green, I'm using a light gray, and I'm using a light skin tone. Now, I don't ever specify in the book which exact color markers I'm getting because I do not want you to run out and just grab these colors. I've just grabbed them randomly, and I want you to choose and have the freedom to choose, again, the colors and the price points that you like. Because it doesn't matter what color this project is in. It could be, I could be doing purple right now, and that would be just the same. So I hate telling people kind of exactly what to use. This gives you a little bit of creativity and freedom. So as you notice, I'm coloring this in very methodically. I'm keeping this whole lesson in real time so you know exactly what I'm doing. And you can see that it causes some streak marks. Now, I am okay with this because she's going to be having some vertical ruffles that we're going to be coloring into. So I am welcoming the vertical streak effect that my Copics are creating. If that is undesirable, it's super easy to fix. What you do is moving your marker very quickly. You can actually make small circles, and I have a whole video on tricks and tips to coloring in Copic markers or alcohol markers. But no matter if you're doing little circles, which will eliminate the streaks that you're seeing here, or if you're doing vertical strokes or horizontal strokes, you do want to move rather quickly because it's sort of like keeping a wet edge when you're painting a large wall or a large surface. So the longer you give for the layers to dry, the greater the streaking there's going to be on your paper. So it's a really good idea to move very quickly if it's possible. Also, what's very important with coloring with Copic markers or any alcohol markers, I'm going to say Copics just to be quick about it, but please know that I really do mean any brand of alcohol marker. Paper is hugely, massively important to how these perform. So please make sure, if you want to check my description box in all my videos, tell what supplies I'm using, and also gives links. So the greatest, the awesomest papers you can use with Copics, in my opinion, are very thick cardstock, glossy covered, sort of like Bristol is a great option. My favorite is a Hammermill office product, and it's equivalent to Bristol, only it's like a fraction of the price. So again, you can find in the description box of this video the exact link to that product, my favorite products. It makes a really big difference if they're going to bleed onto the other paper or not, and how they perform. So just paper is of the utmost importance, just so you know before you get started. So I'm also using a very light skin tone color. So everything is just getting a wash of the lightest color for the first layer. It's super straightforward. Yeah, so it's very straightforward. As far as skin tones go, I do recommend, if you're not sure where to start, because there are a dizzying array of options out there, is buy a skin tone pack from any number of alcohol marker manufacturers. Spectrum Noir makes a great pack. Copics makes a great pack. Arteza has a great 24-piece skin tone pack. That's awesome as well. And I do recommend Arteza products because they're very very affordable alternative to Copic markers, and they come in their skin tone pack comes in a pack of 24, which is pretty awesome, and I think they're about between 50 cents and $1 a piece, whereas Copics run about $6 to $10 a piece. So you catch my drift. I do recommend Arteza, and I do have links to them in the description box as well. So we are now, as you noticed, on layer 2. So layer 2, we are putting aside all of our light colors. We've done light green, light gray, and light peach skin color, if you will, for this girl so far. So layer 2, we're going to grab our medium color markers. And if you have the book, you can be following right along page by page with me. So this is layer 2. And we are going to start with the ruffles on her skirt. Now, I go into quite detail, page by page in the book, about light source, what direction it's coming from, so you know where to put your shading and shadows. So to boil it down to you for a video, you need to know where your light source is coming from. So I'm assuming, or I'm pretending, that the light source for this girl is coming from the left, and it is going to be shining onto her. So it's like directly in that, looking at her just as we are looking at her right now. So ruffles are tricky, but I have 2 full-length ruffle projects in the book that we create page by page. So if you want to know how to draw these figures or anything Art Deco, really this anthology I've created, the Learn to Draw Art Deco Style, is definitely for you. So what you want to do when you're creating these skirt folds or these ruffles is you have these areas of highlights and shadows. So by taking the whole project layer by layer, we're just going to do them very slowly, step by step. And at the end, you'll see it's a very 3-dimensional effect. So you need a great starting reference point for any drawing. It doesn't matter if you're doing whimsical or realism. It's much easier to draw if you have a reference that's giving you the information that you need. So I used, in all of the figures that you'll see in this book, I used old advertisements and I used old sewing patterns. And I used them because they're in the public domain. There's no copyright restrictions on these. And then I changed them to be my own creative fun subject for the book. So that's what I am basing my illustrations on. And then you're welcome to obviously use my, therefore, images in the book to recreate the same drawings and to learn about shading and shadows and highlights and dimensions. It's so fun. So that was the dark streak. So you just want to follow me. That's why I'm keeping this video in total real time. And so this, along with the book, will have some really cool effects. So I'm putting the shadow very specifically, very carefully in different areas to give this 3-dimensional appearance. Now, I haven't talked about the colors, but basically this is just the same green as we did on layer 1, only it's a little bit darker. So this is just a darker shade of the same exact green. And then I also am using a darker shade of the gray and then a darker shade of the skin tone. So it's like super straightforward. Again, we're still on layer 2. And we're just very methodically putting and very carefully putting in the darker variations of the first color that we have down. So there's some folds here on her sleeve. So we're going to be very carefully and very strategically popping in the darker values. So if you notice, she has 2 tones of gray on her because she's wearing a 2-tone shirt. She has 2 tones of gray, and then this is the 3rd darkest. And it's going into the creases, and it creates the look of folds in the same way that we had in the ruffles. The dark areas are what's creased, and it's creating the areas of shadow. I love this simple little project. This is the very first project in the entire book. And again, we're going to use my quadrant method to learn how to draw her. And then this is step 2, which is how to color her in. So now I'm going to go in with my medium gray, very slowly, evidently. And then put it again strategically in the places. So again, if her light source is coming from the left, shining on her, though some of her is going to remain that light gray because the sun is shining down on her, and some of it will become darker. So it's really interesting because at the end of this project, the highlighted areas look white, but it's actually just the gray So it's the way that you layer up the layers or the markers, if you will, that create this, again, the illusion of depth. And what's so fantastic about alcohol markers is in the way that why I love them so much, and that they're so popular, especially for fashion designers, is that they layer very well. They almost are very painterly. You have the brush nib with the Copics, and that's why I prefer the Copics. It's really very much like painting, and the colors really will blend together. So you can layer the same color over itself a few times to get a darker effect, or you can just take slightly deeper shades and layer them, and you get this build up. It's almost just like paint. You get a build up of color. So if you notice, I'm moving very quickly. This is real time, so this is how quickly that I'm applying the marker, and you'll see this way it gets covered quickly, and I hope to have the streak marks diminished here. So you can, again, use the small circular motion to color things in as well, and that will eliminate the streak marks. However, when I'm doing clothes and textiles, I tend to keep my brush strokes in the same directionality as the fabrics themselves. So this is a long, lean shirt. The style of the 1920s was very tubular. The women were flat chested. They had no bums. So having these long longitudinal lines, even if there are some streaks, I am totally okay with, because it really is sort of representing exactly what the fabric is doing at the time. So I am okay to leave them in there. If that is not desirable to you, and I suggest you end up playing with this and experimenting and see what kind of look you prefer, just know you can switch up your marker marks and see what kind of effect it has on your drawing. Another thing I can do is if I go in one direction for the first layer, I'll switch it up and go in another direction for the second layer, like I did on the skirt. The first layer I did vertical strokes. The second layer I went in horizontally, and you see the skirt is much more solid and you can hardly see those first lines. So that's another trick or tip that will help to eliminate some of your brush strokes that you might see by using the alcohol markers of your choice. So in just one second, I'm going to be picking up the second shade of skin color, which is a darker shade than the first one. And the skin is super important as well because, and it's kind of easily overlooked, but it really packs the biggest punch when you do this correctly, which is the legs and the arms are rounded. So by keeping the darker shades on the edges and keeping the highlight in the middle, it really creates a look of roundness, especially when you step back and your drawing is done. You have that highlighted portion in the middle. That's where the light source is hitting it. And then the edges are dark. So again, it's the same thing. We're having 2 shades of green, 2 shades of gray, and then 2 shades of a skin color. And especially on the face too. So just watch carefully and color along the same places as me and you will be just fine. So the hat is going to cast a shadow on the face. So that gets shaded. Now also remember the light source is coming from the left. There's the sun on the screen. So we want to make sure that some of that will be shaded and some of it will stay lit because the light is hitting it full on. So that's a good tip just to keep in mind. And the coolest part too about shading, honestly, in art is that you can even have, like, your shading can even be incorrect, but because there is shading there, it still looks like artsy fartsy and still looks like you know what you're doing. And it still is more exciting than if you just have one flat, boring color. So now we're on layer 3. We're almost done with our whole drawing. I hope you're having fun with me and you're drawing and you're learning so much. I had the most ridiculous fun time creating this book. It was such a love project for me. So here I am going in with my white colored pencil. I'm just putting a tiny bit on either side. And again, I'm using the reference from this original drawing. And so you can use my drawing now as a reference for yourself. So I'm using a paint pen because I like really punchy highlights. And just take note of exactly where I'm adding them. Sometimes if your marker like mine wasn't shaken up very well, then it won't be that pungent. But the Posca pens really are a fantastic paint marker. And they typically do work really well. I just use mine to death. so they sometimes aren't as punchy as I would like them to be. I find these to work much better than gel pens as well. And I always put the products I'm using in the description box of all my videos. And I really hope you're enjoying all the free video resources that are accompanying this book and all my other books as well. So yes, we're popping on our little color pencil accents and our paint pen accents. And this is very important too, is to make sure that your highlights as well as your shadows are really consistent. So there's highlights already that we have in the top because of where the shades of gray are falling, but we don't have that in the skirt yet. So we're going to add those in with a colored pencil. So there's different ways that you can have your highlights. If you by accidentally forget your highlights, not a problem. You just pop them in with your colored pencil, just like you see me doing here. And I'm doing this layering with the colored pencils, and you'll see me doing it throughout the book and throughout the video. So whether the base of the drawing is watercolor markers or Copic markers or watercolors themselves, I often couple them with colored markers, and I do the colored markers on top to create more depth, to create the look of texture, lots of reasons. And then I love me some paint pen for some white pops, because I love the whiter the highlights, the punchier they are, and it creates more drama and more dimension. So you'll always see me finishing off with just a touch of marker. I cannot not do that very, very last step. So I hope that this video that accompanies the book is super helpful to you, and I hope that you enjoyed it so much. Oh, if you want to join my Facebook group and share your drawings from the book, I would love to have you there. You can search Awesome Art School on Facebook and find the Facebook group there. I'll put a link in the description box as well, along with the links. And at the end of this video, I'll also have a link to the video that shows how to color and shade this girl using watercolors to do monochromatic shading. So we actually do the same project, but using a single tube of watercolor. And you'll notice here, I'm putting the shadows on her feet going the wrong way. If her light source is on the left, those shadows should actually be going to a right. And I call that out on the book, which is so funny. And here you can see the monochromatic one. And if you click the link on the screen, you can watch it right now. Thanks for watching.